remember that?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I like about the music in this movie is it was all taken from the KHJ radio playlist that they played in 68 and 69. But also at the same time, I can hear a song and think, oh, this would be a good driving song for some movie. Oh, this would be a good dance song for some movie. Or I can listen to Vanilla Fudge's You Keep Me Hanging On and think the whole bang, bang, bang climax at the end would be great for a fight scene. And so, one of these days, if I'm doing a fight scene and it can work out that I can play that song, then then I will. And that worked out here. The film became a big memory piece, and a big part of my memory of Los Angeles at that time is being in the car with my stepfather, being in the car with my mom, and driving around and listening to the radio playing all the time. I remember the bus stops advertising the rerun shows that were on the local television stations, and the movie posters, and even that whole shot where you see Cliff driving by those signs. I'm like, well, that's pretty much my view, looking up at my stepfather in the Carmen Ghia as he drove around Los Angeles.
Yeah, sorry about that. Here, put these on. Don't cry in front of the Mexicans.
It's a day in the life of a man sort of going not only through an emotional breakdown, but a transition in his career and a realization that time has sort of passed him by, that culture has passed him by, but creating a character that is literally on set, working on a job that for the first time he's being sort of challenged.
Yeah.
He's also feeling sorry for himself. What's so interesting is, Quentin puts all of this in this sort of 2-day time span, and he gave this amazing backstory to all of us, but so much of these characters and what they're going through emotionally in this transition that Rick Dalton is going through, accepting his sort of fate, but also realizing that if he gives a little more and tries a little harder and stops feeling so damn sorry for himself, there are some possibilities out there.
You're Rick fucking Dalton. Don't you forget it.
You don't have to be a relic of 1959. You could be a modern actor. You could be in a new Hollywood movie.
It's the actor's job to strive for 100% effectiveness. Naturally, we never succeed, but it's the pursuit that's meaningful.
I told Leo about this show from the early 70s that I was a big fan of, Alias Smith and Jones. And I told him about the actor Pete Dool who was on the show. And somewhere in the second season, he committed suicide. I remember that really well back then because I was a big fan of the show, and I think it was probably the first time I ever understood the concept of suicide. Why did he kill himself? I don't know, I guess he was depressed. What does he got to be depressed about? He's Hannibal Hayes. I did a little bit of research and found out a little bit that he had a bit of a drinking problem. It sounds like the guy was undiagnosed bipolar, and he had mood swings, and the reason that he was drinking was to self-medicate himself. Leo got that. I don't think about shot lists or anything until I get to the set that day.
Was Reservoir that same way? Or did you come out?
Well, eventually it was. First, because it was, wow, this is the first time I'm ever going to do a movie, so I had to have everything shot list just so everyone would have trust in me. But it was a 5-week shoot. Somewhere mid-third week, I started leaving my shot list at home. I started feeling comfortable enough now to just to rehearse the scene and figure out the shots from that point on. And from that point on, that's always kind of how I do it. I mean, when you see us handing around shot lists and stuff, I wrote them that morning.
Just so everyone understands, a shot list would be like, okay, we have this scene, and you might plan ahead to get one from the back to see the whole environment, and then to get a 2-shot here of Leo and I, and then over my shoulder to get Leo's close-up, and then to get the gang. But on the day, it's actually much looser. Like he is finding it as he goes. It's more instinctual than you would think watching your films.
Can you sort of explain what you think the reason is why we're still so fascinated in this story?
I think we're fascinated by it because at the end of the day, it almost seems unfathomable. I've done a lot of research on it, and I think a lot of people have not done professional research, but over the last few years, either they read 1 book or 2 books or listened to the podcast, and how he was able to get these girls and even these young boys to just submit to him, it just seems unfathomable. And frankly, the more you learn about it and the more information you get and the more concrete it gets, it doesn't make it any clearer. It actually makes it even more obscure the more you know. And I think the unknowingness of it, the impossibility of being able to truly understand it, I think is what causes its fascination. Each three of these characters represent somebody on a different level. You have Rick, who had his day, and he's still having his day. It's just not as good as it was, but he's still doing pretty good in his career. And people in Hollywood, somebody with a nice, solid existence, not doing what they want to be doing, but doing okay, and if done okay, can actually live next door to somebody who is doing magnificent. She's enjoying the highlight. She's enjoying being at the center of the zeitgeist. She absolutely is the future. And then Cliff represents these people who worked in the entertainment business their whole life and really almost have nothing to show for it. He doesn't even live in Hollywood. He spends his whole day doing chores and errands around Hollywood, then gets on 3 different freeways to go home. But nevertheless, these 3 different representatives pretty much kind of cover the gamut, social breakdown that you can see on a set. I was on a date, and I went to see True Romance. And then I thought, well, you know, I wrote this thing. Maybe they'll let me in for free, all right? She's not stressing the 75 cents. She's almost just proud to be in the movie. Do I get a little consideration? And my girlfriend starts negotiating it, all right? And he's like, well, how do I know he's in the movie? How do I know he wrote the film? Well, he can show you his driver's license. His name is right there. So then a couple of people like come up to me and start asking for my autograph. And so I'm signing my autograph. And then the manager of the theater goes, well, who are those people? He goes, those are his fans.
I'm in the movie. I'm Sharon Tate.
You're in this?
Mm-hmm.
Seems this world got you down.
A first AD named Bill Clark that has been with me since Jackie Brown. He came to the house to read the script and was really kind of curious what he was going to think about it. And he went out by my pool like these guys did and read it. And he came back in and he goes, it's all of them. He goes like, these are all, there's a bit of all your movies rolled into one, to one degree or another in this. And if that's the case, I think this is the climax. This seems like the climax of all those movies together. We have a little mantra that me and the crew have been doing for a long time, where it's where we say, okay, we've got it, but we're gonna do one more. And why are we going to do one more? And then the whole crew screams out, because we love making movies. And we do. We're living a great life that we're just absolutely blessed to live it.
And by the way, everyone does it with no embarrassment. Everyone's
you scream
in.
it at the top of your lungs.
Everyone's in.
And it's the moments where it's like they enter the party and then you might spend all night doing this shot where there's a crane and there's this and there's girls dancing, it's choreographed. It's like, it's those small moments which...
That was an particularly magical night. I couldn't even get to bed that night.
I was just so jazzed up to the paper.
This is our lives. So as important it is that we try to do movies that we care about and we put all our hope into, and hopefully we have good results at the end. As important is the experience of making the movie, because this is our lives. So if we're going to dedicate months and in some cases years to something, then we owe it to ourselves to enjoy it. We owe ourselves to appreciate it, to really have a great time. Everybody on the set, this is their lives. So let's live it. Good. Cool. Let's just do it one more time. Let's go. Why? Because.